Nice.
What's it like? I was actually there in attendance in Cleveland for Coe's first career NFL touchdown, which was awesome. And,
Awesome.
It was a great game. You could hear me on camera. I was just screaming, "Say it ain't so, Coe! Say it ain't so!" Sadly, from there, the game kind of went off the rails a little. That was the last high moment of that game, but it was a great game. Overtime loss, fun time.
Yeah.
But how was that moment for you? Seeing the first, whether it was on TV, in person, wherever you were, seeing his first NFL touchdown. How was that?
Well, dude, I mean, we were at home because it was a away game. We don't travel to a lot of the away games because we can get into that later. But, to watch that and to think I wished I was there live. So to have your video was so cool. And just that, hey, this is so cool. I mean, that was so cool for us. Catching it from Tom Brady, right? Like he's got the ball yet. First NFL touchdown means a lot, right? I mean, as a dad, that's just so cool to see. And it was fun to watch. And, it didn't have the outcome we wanted, but still the same. What a memory! What a memory to have, right? So,
and honestly,
cool.
those. One of the best guests ever, the Buccateers in the house tonight. You guys hear him on Tampa radio all the time. He's one of the best in the business. My favorite personal in the business. That's why I'm elated tonight. Growing up in the Chicago area, you're used to sports radio. That's what gets me through the day. So this man does help get me through the day, I will say, with the Pat and Aaron show at work. Nothing like it. So it's incredible. It looks like we got Stunna bumbling in. I'm Tampa Tones. We are joined by lead goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little cleared. But we're joined by Pat Donovan.
It looks like Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like he got a little...
No, my camera's broke.
And he was trying to pull me in big time. And then I was like, hey, nothing's happened with Indianapolis yet. Like, I really want to give Indy a chance. And then also I talked to Cody Bruton, once he took over Rich McCann, was still like, well, look, I was like, y'all just give me the opportunity to explore free agency, see what's going on, and then can I make us do it?
All right, everyone, you are tuned into the Buccateers at wide receiver, Kalen Geiger, and we are about to have a great pod. This is the Buccateers. You're tapped in, and here we go. Welcome back into the Buccateers podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Tampa Tones alongside the great J-Lo here, playing our new intro music for our Man Cave Monday show, even though it is here on a Tune Me Up Tuesday. Decided to give it a whirl and get pumped up here as we got a big Monday Night Football matchup with Atlanta. Our guy Richard says, happy Taco Tuesday, everyone. Richard, I love it. I'm even having tacos tonight, but let's start calling it Tune Me Up Tuesday as we tune me up for this next week. Right, J-Lo? Isn't that right, brother? How the hell you doing? Welcome back home to Tampa, man. Seems like you were just here in Chicago.
No, thank you, man. Like I said, it was a fun time up in Naperville. I made it back home safe, got to Tampa, and what a great weekend it was. And now I'm ready for the next step, man. Next game we talked about soon.
Crazy stat that our guy Richard is sharing. Bucs haven't beat the Texans since 2003, so it's long overdue, J-Lo. It's time that we beat these Houston Texans, especially in Houston on Monday Night Football. Egbuka is going to be Offensive Rookie of the Week, right? No other rookie did better. We're going to get into that as there are 2 awards up for grabs for the great rookie Emeka Egbuka, former first-round pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As Olive says, hey, Olive, how the hell are you? Welcome in. We love our lady listeners as always. So J-Lo and Tampa Tones here on a Tune Me Up Tuesday, taking you live into Monday Night Football previews with Bucs and Houston. And J-Lo, the Bucs got one monkey off their back this past weekend when they were able to take down Atlanta in Atlanta, which has given us fits the past couple of seasons. And now we need to take another monkey off our back this coming Monday, as the Bucs were winless in primetime a season ago, have multiple primetime games upcoming this season. Now we have one week 2 right away, J-Lo, against Houston in a Monday Night Football doubleheader. What say you on bucking the trend of not winning primetime games?
Yeah, it's very unfortunate when it comes to prime time. We have very bad luck. I think the last time we even won on prime time was against Philly in the wild card game when we blew them out of the water. But I think it's time to, switch it around and not lose in prime time. Go out there and perform. Baker looked a little rusty this past Sunday, but I think hopefully it's just rust, not playing during the preseason. And I think they got a good shot of turning it around and actually win on a primetime game in front of the national audience.
Happy Tuesday, Trisha, another lady listener of ours. We love our ladies. Welcome in. The great Christopher Cole says, yo, what up, CC? How the hell you doing, brother? Welcome back to the show. Speaking of welcoming brothers in, the great A-Cats is here. Cats, we did buck the trend, no pun intended, and knocked off Atlanta in Atlanta. Opening week, Todd Bowles very good in week 1s, and now we have another chance to quote-unquote buck another trend this coming Monday, as the Bucs haven't been that great in primetime games, really since Brady's arrival here back in 2020. So, Cats, what say you on the feeling in the air surrounding Monday Night Football, another primetime game for our Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Well, I'm excited. One streak is going to end because Todd Bowles is 7-0 in week 2 as a Buccaneer head coach. And I don't think that's the streak that's going to end. I think the Monday night streak, I think it comes to an end this week. And I'm not just saying that. The Texans are a good team. They have I believe they have a better defense than Atlanta. Actually, they have a much better defense. So the Falcons look improved. Offensively, though, the Texans, they're without Joe Mixon. They have Nick Chubb. Matt Collins. They've got some good players. Their offensive line is not good. And I think ultimately, you look at some of these losses in prime time, and I'm thinking, well, if you're looking at blowout losses constantly, they've been in every one of these games. Really, every single one, almost except the Baltimore game was a blowout. They've been in all of them, and I just think it's one of those kind of quirky stats, kind of the same as like, well, they've never won below 40 degrees. I think it's one of those, and I think they break it.
Yeah, I think they break it as well. Houston did not look all that scary to me week 1 against the Rams, only held the 9 points, and taking nothing away from the Rams here, don't get me wrong, but to me, Houston's offense doesn't have the juggernauts they once did. Nico Collins is a nice piece, but other than that, they don't have a lot of great pieces. Joe Mixon's banged up. Now their tight end 1 is banged up. Their center's banged up. They got a plethora of injuries to deal with over there in Houston. So I'm really not afraid of this team, but as Katz alluded to, one streak has to end, and I think Todd Bowles bucks another trend here, ends up getting over Houston and gets on the good graces again in that category. Speaking of good graces and categories, Emeka Egbuka nominated for Player of the Week, Rookie of the Week. Fun times for the Bucs rookie, J-Lo. You predicted 2 touchdowns out of the kid. Do you think he keeps this up? And what do you say on a couple of award nominations from the young man?
No, was there? I mean, the guy was ready to play. I mean, pretty much most of the captains, Jason Lyon, made it very known that he's ready to go out there. Gazar believes in him. That's why I had a feeling he was going to contribute and help catch those 2 tutties and make some plays, especially that end around, that little trickery. That was pretty cool, seeing him in that. So that goes to show how much big part he's going to be in the offense, even when we get our other players back.
Katz, would you like to see him win the Pepsi Zero Sugar Rookie of the Week or the FedEx Air and Ground Player of the Week more if you had to choose for Bucs wide receiver rookie Emeka Egbuka?
Let's give him Rookie of the Week because I think it can help his potential Offensive Rookie of the Year campaign a little bit more. So I would give him, if I could pick one, I would take that one.
Do you buy the hype that this is the best Bucs rookie wide receiver perhaps of all time? Katz, Pewter Report's been saying it. Mike Evans himself said it. He's getting a lot of praise from the world inside the 813, which is great to see. And he, backed up, put his money where his mouth was last week on Sunday when he said, hey, give me the ball for this touchdown. I'm going to score. I'm going to get past the defender. He did that, and the Bucs go on to win, and he had a great game.
Yes, I absolutely buy it because he's not only incredibly talented, he's well polished and he's wise beyond his years. So he's not only, doesn't bring just his natural talent, he also is a student of the game. He seems to know where to be at the right times, and he's absolutely fantastic. And yes, easily, I'll even say easily. Mike was fantastic as a rookie, but you could tell it was his talent alone at that point. He became a student of the game as time went by. But I think Egbuka's already there from the mental standpoint. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, some other good rookie wide receivers in Buccaneers history. Michael Clayton had a really good rookie year here. Mike Williams, rest in peace to the late great Mike Williams. He had a nice rookie year here. Mclaughlin had a pretty good rookie year here, but some of the guys were later bloomers. Not that Godwin had a bad rookie year, but he really started his great development in a year two. What Egbuka could do is special, put him in special terms with Mike Clayton, Mike Williams, Mike Evans, Mike, right? This is the first non-Mike that would be had in that group. So great to see there. J-Lo, last thoughts on Egbuka potentially winning awards as the Godfather's joining us live on Facebook.
No, I agree with Katz. I think Rookie of the Year would definitely be a good start after his professional career. Like I mentioned before, he's wide receiver 2 at the moment. He's earned the spot, and it makes Jason Licht look like a genius on how smart he was picking him. Because now look, he helped us win a football game.
Yeah, and I didn't want a receiver round 1. I was adamant about that, but I'm sure as hell glad we did now. And a little cool stat about Emeka Egbuka as well. He's Ohio State's all-time leading wide receiver. And if you know Ohio State, they're one of the core 4 wide receiver programs historically. I call it in the world of college football. You got USC, you got LSU, you got Alabama, and you got Ohio State. Those are the big 4 that produce wide receivers, and Ohio State having Emeka Egbuka as their all-time leading wide receiver is pretty nuts to me. It's pretty crazy, and it just speaks to volumes on how much of an impact Emeka Egbuka makes on the football field. Speaking of impacts on the football field, J-Lo, Texans have a couple key impact guys who were hurt in week 1. Obviously, the Bucs have a lot of impact injuries like a Tristan Wirfs, like a Jalen McMillan, like a Chris Godwin, but at least they've been used to those and prepped for those. Meanwhile, the Texans face injuries to tight end one Stover with the foot injury. He'll miss some time. Their center Andrews rolled his ankle. He's day-to-day. And wide receivers Berrios and Kirk doing well with their recoveries, but still no timetables for them, J-Lo. This could be a Houston Texans team coming in to this week 2 matchup banged up a little bit. Now, what works in the Texans' favor is it's Monday Night Football, so you get an extra day to recover and rest and try and recover some of these guys to get them out on the field. But at the same flip of the token, it ends up hurting them for the next week. They get 1 less day, so you don't really want to rush them back, and then you get a short week's notice. But, J-Lo, what's the biggest impact of a player missing for the Texans?
No, the biggest impact for the Texans is that, their O-line's already beat up anyway, for the most part, as far as their tackle situation. Now you lose your center, which is one of the leader of the offensive line, so that's definitely going to hurt them a lot, especially on the play calling, changing up plays and everything. And then Stover at tight end, that just puts it down. I know they still got Dalton Schultz, so I'm not too worried about that. But the fact that they lost their center when their O-line's already beat up already, it's going to give Vita Vea, Kalijah Kancey, Hassan Reddick, Yaya Diaby to get in there and get pressure on the quarterback, which is important, which is very key. Because we kind of struggled a little bit getting to the quarterback at first, and then we started turning up or not. So to me, I feel that this could be a pretty evenly matched game when it comes to injury-wise. And like I said, the center position, that's a huge one to where now they're going to have to figure out what to do with the center position.
Yeah, J-Lo, nice jersey as well, by the way, brother. We'll be there live week 3 when the Buccaneers bring back those beautiful original white creamsicles for the first time in 50 seasons. A lot of people still confused. I thought they wear the white creams. Oh, breaking news. We got breaking news in the world of the NFL. The 49ers are signing former Panthers kicker Eddie Pinheiro, the 29-year-old is currently the third most accurate kicker in NFL history, behind only Justin Tucker and Harrison Butker. So a little bit of breaking news there in the world of football. But Cats, what say you on the Texans injury? Couple receivers banged up, starting center banged up, tight end banged up. Does that bode well for the Bucs, or is that not too big of a deal, say you?
No, it's absolutely a big deal. The center is out, from what I understand. He's week to week. And they've had some issues with their tackles as well. And so, Texans, I believe they're a better team than the Falcons. Offensive line, the Falcons were missing their right tackle, but they were solid at every other position. I think the Texans do not have as good an offensive line as Atlanta does. So that bodes well for the Buccaneers pass rush.
I agree, and their pass rush played hit or miss week one. I saw some good positive signs, including the positive sign of progression of pass rush at certain points, especially Hassan Reddick on pace for 17 sacks. He had a sack week one. That was pleasant to see. Vita Vea had some good disruptions. I noticed Kalijah Kancey got double teamed almost all the time in week one, so that'll be interesting to see if that was more of a game plan that the Falcons brought to the table, or if other teams are really going to take that into consideration as well. But found it interesting that our guy Kalijah Kancey was getting double teamed. And I thought Logan Hall played well in the run game. He shed a lot of tight end blocks. He took up some double teams with tight ends. So this Bucs front seven is going to look to compete with the Texans offensive line and tight end room that's banged up, which often bodes well for a defensive front seven because tight ends are additional O linemen at times. So good news there for the Bucs front seven. Hopefully that pans out well, and we'll see what happens, as Atlanta was a little lighthearted up front too with some injuries there. Texans could be facing the same possible challenge. So the injury report is really something to keep an eye on the next couple of days. It starts tomorrow and then it runs through Friday, Saturday to really get a good feel on if these guys will be in, on if these guys will be out come Monday. Speaking of in and out, the Buccateers will be in all fall. Our schedule's just getting started here. We're going to be cranking away 5 times a week. On Mondays, we debuted our Man Cave Monday show yesterday, all things memorabilia / Bucs Victory Monday. That was incredible. We're going to be doing that a couple times a month. Then once a month on Mondays, Cats and myself will be diving deep into the history of Tampa sports, Rays, Lightning, Bucks, anything you want Tampa sports-wise. We'll be at your service for a cool little 30, 40-minute show there. Of course, right now, live on a Tune Me Up Tuesday, our flagship weekday show here on a Tuesday, getting you ready for all things Buccaneers Kickoff Weekly. Thursdays, we have our campus kickoff college shows and toe in the line NFL shows, short mini shows coming at you real brief, real quick, but going to lay down the whole world of college football and NFL football at your service. And then our Saturday Showdown kickoff, the football weekend show every Saturday live, 9:55 a.m. Eastern time there. Show subject to change based on travel schedules, college football schedules, and more. But stay here on the Buccateers all fall. We got you covered. You don't need any other outlets. Just stay right with us. This is a great Rochelle is tuned in. We appreciate it greatly live on Facebook. We love our lady listeners, and it's just a great time to be here on the Buccateers. So we got a great schedule coming up. And speaking of great, former great cornerback, still pretty good in this league, but at one point in time was referred to as great around the league. Jamel Dean took a big pay cut to stay with this team. It sounded like he reduced his salary greatly, which is good news for the Bucs. Gives us more cap relief, gives us more money to work with, and we kept Jamel Dean, and it pretty much sounds like he's as good as gone at year's end. But to me, he played okay week one. I thought he played pretty good. Obviously got beat a couple times at a face mask call, but no downfield. Nothing was downfield with Atlanta, right? He kept everything in front of him. So Cats off the Jamel Dean pay cut. I guess it makes sense. Joshua Caepo, friend of the show at Pewter Report, kind of broke it down and said he took the pay cut because, yeah, maybe he makes $1 to $2 million more on the open market, but at day's end, then he has to adjust to a new atmosphere, environment, system, yada, yada, yada. how easy would that be in a contract year? So, Kat, thoughts on the Jamel Dean situation, just from a broad point of view?
Well, kudos to him on taking the pay cut. I think he'd rather be here. He's a native Floridian as well. He owns his own trucking company here in the Tampa area as well. So appreciate that. I think he's a better player than a lot of our fans give him credit for. The unfortunate thing with him usually is just that he has trouble staying on the field. Benjamin Morrison may be back this week, but I think Jamel Dean remains as the starter, and he's still a solid starter in this league. He's a solid corner in this league. So I'm glad the Bucs have him. And as far as, the cap savings, I believe it helps us, well, not only during this season, but next season as well, now that he becomes an unrestricted free agent. I don't think they're going to have to worry about any dead cap money, so that gives them more opportunity in re-signing our own guys that need contracts, as well as going out and spending on the free agent market.
Exactly, Katz. It helps flexibility of Bucs financials, and at the same time keeps Jamel Dean at Bucs, so it's a win-win. And he will probably get a nice little payday like Carlton Davis did when his time was done here. He went to Detroit for a year, then New England paid him big. So we'll see what happens there. J-Lo, thoughts on the Jamel Dean situation? Kind of a roller coaster of a ride with him. At one point, some fans wanted him released after the year, but then you saw what some of these big-time cornerbacks were making. Not even big-time, but just veteran cornerbacks were making on the market, I should say. And Jamel Dean's contract suddenly didn't look too bad compared to those. And now it really doesn't look bad. And as Katz alluded to, it's a big financial help in terms of futuristic dead cap hits and money, J-Lo.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think it's a win-win for both sides. They get something for Dean to prove on his next contract when he goes to free agent next offseason. And it's a win for the Bucs, spare some salary cap to where they can sign another player or save it for next year, depending how it goes. I mean, like I said, I know fans want to see Benjamin Morrison on the field, but he's not quite ready yet. He's still got to study the playbook a little bit more, practice, all that stuff. So, to me, I'm glad Dean's on the roster, even though he frustrates a lot of people and he has his bad games. But when he's on, he's on. When he's on, he does a pretty good job holding it down. And they're going after him more than Mclaughlin. So I'm just glad that they worked out something that's fair, that's a win for both sides. To where Dean still gets paid pretty good. And then he go out there and prove that, he'll get paid from another team. Teams are going to jump at experienced corners.
And a lot of people forget and take for granted how long Jamel Dean's been here. This is year 7 for Jamel Dean. So, yes, a lot of people want to say things about him and his play, but this is an expected fall-off point for a cornerback or for an NFL player at their given career. A little different for quarterbacks, a little different for kickers, a little different for certain positions. But at a position like defensive back, especially in modern-day football, you hear all the time guys in their prime for 1 to 3 years, and then next thing you know, a new sheriff comes to town giving the cornerback position. It's not like the old days where you have a cornerback who's elite like a Darrelle Revis, pardon me, like an Asante Samuel, like a Nnamdi Asomugha, who's at the top of their game for a 5 to 10 year period. It's really a 1 to 3 year elite in this stretch now, given a 7 to 10 year shelf life. And really the back 5 years of those, you're going to be on the downturn probably. Like, that's just how corner looks. Look at Xavier Howard. He was at the top of his game. Now he barely got signed by the Colts. Look at a Jalen Ramsey. He can't even stop arguing every couple minutes out there nowadays. Hothead could barely stay on the field. So we'll see. Yes, Dean did fall down on that Antoine Winfield Jr. pass breakup. But to me, instead of a bad knock on Dean there, what I was more happy about was seeing Antoine Winfield Jr. return to Antoine Winfield Jr. type form right there, make a play, and really elevate himself back to all-pro status. Because let's not forget, 2 years ago, Winfield Jr. playing at that all-pro level was all the difference in the world for a couple defensive saving plays here and there. Last year, he had the one against Pitts. We didn't get the call. But other than that, he didn't have the Antoine Winfield type year we're accustomed to because of injuries. Now, week 1, here we go. We reap the benefits and reward of a healthy Winfield, J-Lo, and we saw that time on Sunday. And I know a lot of people want to say, oh, this Bucs D, this and that, didn't get enough pressure. We held the Falcons to 20 points, and a lot of these playmakers made some key plays like the Winfield breakup late in that game. And J-Lo, I don't care. To me, it was pretty impressive. I know the Falcons ended up scoring, but they had 8 plays within the 5-yard line at one point in time. And the Buccaneers persevered for 8 straight plays, couple penalties later, couple reviews later. The Falcons got into the end zone by this much. But kudos to this Bucs defense for holding the Falcons 8 plays consecutively out of the end zone within the 5-yard mark, J-Lo.
No, to me, the defense got to a slow start with the Robinson score. But after that, they were pretty, consistent, at least getting pressure on the quarterback. We had some BS calls of the Vita Vea, unnecessary roughness, which I'll never understand that. But for the most part, in the plus, Mclaughlin, almost got a pick. You got to pull the ball in. They got pressure by Vita getting the ball tip off his helmet. So that, to me, is a good sign that this defense will get better as the season goes. To me, it's a different defense from last year. It's good to see Winfield back healthy. You can tell that he hasn't, lost a step from 23 season. He was injured all last year, but now we finally got a healthy Antoine Winfield Jr. to help out when incidents happen. When you have teams slip, it's going to happen. Players slip, unfortunately. But thank God Winfield was there to make the stop, or else that would have probably been a walk-off touchdown. You never know. But for the most part, the defense looked pretty well. So I think they'll get better as time goes the next few games.
The great Cleve and me. So glad our teams come off wins. That's absolutely true. Starting off 0-1, although overreactionary, just feels bad because then you got to win 2 in a row to get to that 2-1 mark. And it kind of feels like it just puts you in the mud a little bit. When you start off 1-0, next thing you know, it's like, not that you want to drop game 2, but if you did, it's like, all right, bounce back week 3, and we're still 2-1, feeling ourselves. So winning week 1, although a little bit overreactionary, is always a great feeling. But Cats, what say you on the defensive efforts, specifically from an Antoine Winfield Jr.? I think J-Lo made a great point. Players are going to slip. It happens, especially that, that Falcons field is different material than the Bucs are used to playing on. So players adjust differently, and not giving Dean an excuse, but again, more so of a tap on the back to Antoine Winfield Jr. Cats.
It's a big time player making a big time play in a big moment. So that's really what I can say about that. Unfortunate that Dean slipped, but it gave Antoine an opportunity to make a big play, and that's exactly what he did. Also, when they were down there inside inside the 4 for 8 plays, I still don't quite know about the play where he gave himself up. Had he been touched, I thought, by Servassier, then they would have gotten the call right. But if he was not touched, I'd never seen that before, where QB dives, fumbles, was not touched, and gave himself up. So frankly, Bucs really stopped him there based on how the refs called it. Because Servassier, you like him to just get him on the ground. Instead, he didn't touch him at all. He fumbles. They rule that he gave himself up. Falcons get another gift. They take advantage in the immediate with the score, but they don't get the W, and they didn't deserve the W because yet again the officials made a ridiculous call in their favor at a critical moment.
And Cats, that's a great point. I don't know how you're giving yourself up if you're diving for the end zone. That's kind of a oxymoron right there. Hey, he's giving himself up. How is he giving himself up when it's 4th down and he's trying to extend? That just doesn't make sense right there. If you're giving yourself up, to me, that should be like a slide then, right? They rule a slide. When you start sliding, you're giving yourself up. They put the football where you start your slide, which makes sense. You're giving yourself up. But a dive, if you're giving yourself up, technically, shouldn't they put the football where you start your dive? And technically, if it's 4th and 1 and you're trying to get 1 yard for the first down, touchdown, whatever it might be, if you're diving, you're not giving yourself up because you're trying to get that yard. Giving yourself up means, hey, play's over. You could tackle me. I'm pretty much kneeing the football, spiking the football, one of those equivalents. That was a really, really bad miss by those refs, something that's not getting talked about enough, and really an oxymoron of the rule book. If you think about it, they truly got to fix that. I wouldn't be shocked if more players just started diving when they're about to get tackled then, because, hey, if they fumble on a dive at that point, hey, They're giving themselves up. Yeah, and at the same time, they're getting 3-4 extra. If I'm like Mike Evans or somebody who's huge, I'm literally just going to start chugging full speed and gliding 5 or 6 yards downfield. The football could be pigeonholed like this then, and if it flops out, oh, hey, I was giving myself up. So I think the
Right.
NFL, Cats.
Players will try to find a loophole anywhere they can. That's all you can say. So they'll watch that play and think, yeah, don't have to worry about fumbling. I've given myself up. I'm able to extend and get the first down, get the line to gain. Yeah, absolutely. You open a can of worms.
To me, who did it? Was that Jackson or I forget who it was in college, but there was a college quarterback one time who took off on a scramble and, he did the fake like he was going to slide thing, and then he booked it and kept running. But
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett. Thank you, J-Lo. I knew it was a QB of recent, but point of that story is college football pretty much said if that happens again, it's a penalty. I think the NFL really needs to look into this and decipher some sort of game plan, because there's going to be other plays like this down the road, which is a true coin toss. J-Lo, what say you on the thing? As Cleveland says, like the shirt tones, appreciate it. Christopher Cole says this is the first time that players played a full game and they should be a lot better in a few weeks. Yeah, Baker didn't play all of preseason. But J-Lo, thoughts on that rule? Because that's a really good point by Cats. Again, to me, it just feels like such an oxymoron. The slide I get, you're giving yourself up, the ball gets placed when you begin your slide. That makes 100% sense. But the dive, when you're diving for a yard marker and then they mark the ball where it's a wacky rule.
No, it is. It's very rule. It's not fair that certain things get away with, and the NFL needs to do a better job by changing that rule. Like you said with the fake kneel, the NFL should take a playbook out, college's playbook, on how they, if the person's going to dive and the ball's out, it's a fumble. But these refs try to screw us up in so many ways. There's so many missed calls. The refs got to be better too. You know what I mean? The refs got to do a better job of making the right calls. Not going to always catch them, but you know what I mean. They just were not fair at all in the game. But I agree with the both of you. Something's got to change. They got to fix that.
Cleveland says dive should not be giving yourself up as you can stretch a ball with a slide. Exactly. And we're in agreement on that. And that's exactly right. There's a big difference. And they treat a slide like giving yourself up. So to me, you got to do one of two things in the NFL. No dive is giving yourself up. Or if you're diving from now on, it's treated like a slide. The ball gets placed where you begin your dive. And it's as simple as that, because you're going to find a bunch of wacky intermediate rulings of I was diving, I was not diving. It's just going to get perplexing and confusing, just like I'm confusing myself now. Is the dive legal? I don't know what the hell to believe anymore, so and it's really weird because players dive for the goal line all the time, and some of those players fumble into the end zone then and they rule it a fumble. But again, by definition of the NFL, if it's truly giving yourself up, it should just be down. So, it's all confusing is all hell. But speaking of confusing, we're not confusing. We are the Buccateers taking you through our Tune Me Up Tuesday. Texans throwdown. The NFL should clarify the dive explanation, need to show account. I agree, Richard, because it could be a playoff game. It could be a game to clinch a playoff spot. Like the Tuck rule came out of nowhere. You don't want that sort of situation, right? Where fans are just left like they feel cheated. And you might get that here, just like the Rams-Saints playoff game a couple years ago where they threw that pass interference flag or didn't throw the flag, whatever the case was. You're going to end up having a scenario where a team feels cheated and the NFL is going to try and right their wrongs, but it's going to be far too late. And some team's going to get screwed because of this. So between Cleve and me, Richard T, some great points there. J-Lo, speaking of great points, do you think the Texans are still the great in the AFC South? Are the Texans still the team to beat in the AFC South, J-Lo? We saw the Titans play Denver pretty tough with number 1 overall pick Cam Ward. They got the loss ultimately, but went up to Denver and played pretty damn well. You saw the Colts smack the hell out of the Dolphins. Daniel Jones looking like vintage Daniel Jones. And then you saw Jacksonville literally toying with Carolina, Liam Cohen having his way there. So, J-Lo, the Texans are actually the one team that probably looked the worst out of this entire division last Sunday. Are they still the team to beat in the AFC South?
I think they got competition after seeing the highlights of Jacksonville dominating Carolina, and then we saw the Colts just dominate the Dolphins, which was huge for them, and Tennessee battling hard against a very good Denver team. I feel, but to me, it's open, and I think the Texans are very threatened, on competing with these teams in the AFC South. It wouldn't surprise me if they struggle and miss the playoffs because Stroud has not looked good to me. To me, he struggled from sophomore slump to Sunday when we caught some of the game. He just doesn't look very good. So yes, it's open for sure. And with the Colts, how much heart they played in, they got a good shot at stealing that division away from Houston.
Our guy Pepin Steppen, one of our favorite Canadians, says 34-23. Bucks win, Bucks win, Bucks win. Fire the damn cannons. Cats, what say you on the Texans? How do you feel on them? I feel like they're kind of in a weird spot. They're not at the cream of the crop of the AFC like you'd put the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, maybe the Chargers, even so. But, they're obviously better than the bottom of the barrel. They're kind of the lead of the middle of the pack, Cats. But what say you on all that?
Well, I do think they're still a team to beat in the AFC South. I just think the gap is closed. I think they've easily got the best defense in the division, I believe. Offensively, normally I'd take Stroud as the best quarterback, but, Trevor Lawrence, you expect that with a guy like Liam Cohen there, he'll become a better quarterback. Obviously, injuries have always been an issue with him. Titans, decent showing on Sunday, but they're not going to win many games. Colts, I'm not sure about. So I still give the Texans the edge as the best team in the division, but the gap, I think, is closed a bit.
I think, yeah, and that's well said. And our guy Richard says Stroud has looked average, but will probably look like an all-star versus the Bucs because that's what happens. I think that changes this year. I truly do. And I think the Bucs made the necessary additions this offseason, coaching changes, depth changes to address that. And look at week 1. I know Servache Dennis got burnt by Bijan, but Todd Bowles benched him, put him back in. He seemed like he learned from it, then played a hell of a game. I don't think this is your Bucs defense of old last year where they're going to just cross their fingers and say, hey, we're going to bend but not break, bend but not break, bend but not break. We saw Zion Mclaughlin get his hands on a couple balls that really could have turned this football game around as well. We were really close to a couple of key interceptions that would have been difference makers. So I think the Bucs showed signs of being different than in years past in week 1. I really do. And I really think that Hassan Reddick could be an elite edge rusher. Now, you could take all that with a grain of salt and say, well, we had Shaq Barrett, JPP, elite edge rushers, and the Texans still had their ways. 2019, 2022, whatever the case might have been, or whatever the years might have been. But I think this is a little different. I do think this team is a little different, and I think Todd Bowles has this game circled on the calendar specifically after last game's heartbreak with the Texans a couple of years back, where they drove down the field at the end of the game to get a last-minute win against the Bucs. I think Todd Bowles right now is bricked up over this game. Ever since Tank Dell got injured, they fell apart. Yeah, he seemed to maybe be their difference maker over there. And really, Mixon had a hell of a year last year. Now he's injured. So I'm not all too worried about their run game between Nick Chubb. Damian Pierce, he had a huge rookie year as well and kind of fell off there too, right? So a couple of weird things happened in Houston and kind of made them from an elite, up-and-coming elite team maybe to a middle of the pack. Now, as Katz alluded to, their defense is scary. They held the Rams to 13 points. Rams have a lot of high-powered offense. You got Kyron Williams. You got Devontae Adams. You got Puka Nacua. You got Matt Stafford. Got a pretty stabilized O-line and tight end room over there. So hell of a job by Houston's D to hold a team like the Rams in the Rams' house to pretty low amount of points. So that's where I'm concerned, if anything, is this Texans D. Will this Bucs right their wrong a little bit? Will Bucky and Baker and the boys look a little bit better than they did in week 1 and really bring their A game in Houston. In an atmosphere on Monday Night Football when we haven't really played well, will we play better? Speaking of play well, guys, as Cleve and me, the Colts guys, said beat Houston for my boys. We're going to do it. I have a good feeling we're going to do it. Help your Colts out, that's for sure. Pepin, yes. If Zion, one of them wouldn't have counted because the penalty anyways, but say if Zion, he had a really easy one, he comes down with that, well, that's 3 less points for the Falcons right there. That trajectory of the whole game changes and could give the Bucs some points. So, yes, and that's what makes this team different, in my opinion. Sacks and takeaways are going to come sooner than later. Didn't happen week 1, but those are plays you need to make yourself go from a good defense to a great defense. If the Bucs want to be a great defense, you got to intercept some of those balls you get your hands on. I truly think that's coming. I think great news is heading our way. Speaking of great, Chase Mclaughlin the past couple of years looked great. This opener, not so much. Cats missed a couple of kicks. We know that kickers are like closers in baseball. It's a lot of mentals. It's a lot of head games. You get out of rhythm. Just as fast as he rose to the top, you could fall to the bottom. Look at Young Wei Koo, right? He had a great couple of years in Atlanta. Last year struggled. This past game struggled. Now they're looking for a new kicker. Cats, are you concerned at all with Chase Mclaughlin after missing a couple of kicks for this Bucs team?
Well, like you alluded to, it's a very volatile position because you can go from the top to the bottom very quick. But given that it's only one game right now, if it happens again, different story. I'm going to go with that it's just a blip on the radar, that he's mentally tough enough to put it behind him. Be thankful the Bucs still came out on top despite missing, the field goal and PAT. And I think he's going to be all right.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right as well. I'm very confident in that. Our guys, Pat and Aaron, shout out to the Pat and Aaron show. Pat Donovan, Aaron Jacobson voiced their confidence in him this morning, saying, hey, things happen. And I tend to agree with them in this situation. Not all kickers, but a guy like Chase Mclaughlin, who proved last season and the beginning of the Atlanta game, too, that he is reliable. I think he puts it behind him. J-Lo, what say you? Does this turn into a Camarda type situation last year? Or, does Mclaughlin right his wrongs come week 2 and get his head out of the gutter?
Well, hopefully he does, and I think he will. I think, he probably felt some pressure. It's week 1. You know how week 1 goes, first regular season game. And hopefully, he'll make his field goals, which I think he will, because Todd Bowles made it known. He was very upset. He was pissed. I remember he flat out said that he didn't want to curse, on the podium, but he made it known that he was very upset about that. So that's already an ultimatum that, he cannot do that again. He needs to make his field goals, and I think he will. Just a little pressure from the coach right there. I think he'll make his kits.
Bucs had 2 players in for workouts today, according to Greg Allman. Tackle Spencer Brown, the undrafted rookie who was at their rookie minicamp, and safety Hudson Clark, but didn't sign either. Always building list for when they need new depth. So that's one thing I love about the Bucs. They're always dotting their I's, crossing their T's, and they alluded to that during one of their In the Current videos a couple of years ago, or maybe last year, but they said they make a file when a player comes out, declares for the draft, and they file that file away for later. And if that player ever becomes undrafted or free agent down the road, they'll pull the file out, see if the player can fit the bill. Like a Baker Mayfield, they had the file on him. It checked out well. He became a free agent, and the rest was history. But Pepin Steppen thinks Mclaughlin will be fine. So do we here on the Buccateers. I think he turns the corner starting on Monday night. Speaking of turning the corner, Monday night, September 11th, we remember terrible tragedy that happened a couple decades back on September 11th. Going to be one of those heavy nights for the world of football. I still remember when Sammy Sosa came running out for the Cubs with his American flag into the outfield. That was a brave moment. Aaron Rodgers a couple of years ago on 9/11 came out with the Jets raising that flag, waving that flag. Sadly, his most memorable moment with the Jets it ended up being. But nonetheless, players take these games to another level because you're playing with more meaning for you. I don't know if this game needed any more meaning on Thursday. We got here, J-Lo, but 2 of the top competitors for the Bucs in the NFC this year are going to be going toe-to-toe on 9/11. The Commandos, the Packers, Thursday Night Football. It's on, J-Lo. That's going to be a really good game. Emotions will be running high. Going to be a good one.
No, I couldn't agree more. That's definitely a very good two teams to put together. They're both really tough competition. Both played really well in their debuts of 25 season. It's going to definitely be a good game to scout and kind of look at, the competition for playoff time, even though it's a little early right now. But it's two intriguing teams. I think they're going to battle it out, all the emotions on 9/11. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It's a good time to scout. And even if things do progress and change over the year, you could still get some good coaching tips and learning moments from that. I best bet you the Commandos and Bucks last year, week 1, took some things they remembered and learned upon and brought it to that wild card matchup. Actually, I guarantee that because I know some players on both sides of the ball said that. Richard T voicing confidence in Mclaughlin, saying, hey, this is part of the course for him. He'll be just fine. And that improved return game. Yeah, shout out to Cam Johnson. He had a hell of a game, second year UDFA from Barton. He actually had the longest Bucs punt return since 2015 in that game. Pretty hard to believe. It's been 11 seasons, but he was exciting back there. I think that bodes well for the punt game. And the kick game, I do love Sean Tucker as a running back, but he had a nice return. So our return game's up with with Cam Johnson, with Tucker, with the Tez Johnson loom. And I think when our wide receivers get healthy, we might take Tucker out of the kick return role, and we could put a guy like Tez back there with Cam to add a little spice and dice back there. But we'll see. Proud of Cam Johnson in the return game. Great point, Richard. Quick thoughts on special teams, J-Lo, before we get Katz's thoughts on Thursday night?
No, I will say it was really clutch seeing Johnson with a great return. I think it's very good. Cam Johnson got to see the field because he was injured last year, man, battling injuries, and he finally showed why the Bucs kept him. And if he keeps it up, it's going to make it harder to release him when we get our other receivers back. That's one thing. And plus, Sean Tucker being at kick return, I think is temporarily until we get some guys back in the receiving room. I think Cam and Tez will be a nasty combo, very confusing on special teams. So I'm all for it.
Katz, what say you both on the return game and then Thursday night football? Emotions will be high. 9/11 battle of Bucs, top competitor dogs in 2025, Redskins and Green Bay. As Angela Taddeo has joined us live on Facebook. Thanks for joining us. But Katz, doubleheader question there.
Yeah, well, very encouraging to see us do something in the punt return game because it has been a while. We've shuffled through a lot of returners and not seen many returns on our investments. So that was a huge play in the game, kind of after a sudden change. We missed the field goal. Defense gets stopped. Cam Johnson sets us up, and a couple plays later, we're in the end zone. So that was great. I like Sean Tucker as a kickoff returner. He's a pretty straight ahead kind of guy. They came up with a big return late after we fell behind, got us out near the 40. So, I have no issue with him there. We'll see what happens later on in the season. Thursday night, should be emotional because it is 9/11. Also, this is a great matchup. One of the better matchups this week because I was looking at the schedule and I kind of went, not a lot of great matchups on paper anyway. Green Bay at home on a Thursday night, they looked absolutely fantastic in week 1 against Detroit. I think the Commanders bring maybe, a little bit more to the table at this point than the Lions because the Lions look a little different, although I think they'll be fine. So look forward to this game. I think Green Bay takes it at home, but I think it's a very tight contest.
I agree with you there. I think Green Bay takes it at home. I think Washington is good, but, their backfield gives me some doubt. Their defense isn't as stout as Green Bay's. I think Micah Parsons was such a difference maker that really was electric. Pep and Steppen said Johnson reminds me of Clifton Smith. Is Rashad White being weeded out? Feels like, no, I don't think Rashad's being weeded out. A couple of things there, Richard. One, I truly think this team believes without worse, especially right now, we're going to have to run the ball a little more. And when you run the ball more, you're going to see more of the Bucky Irvings and Sean Tuckers of the world. Not that they don't like Rashad to run the football, but They love him in pass blocking downs and receiving downs. So remember, I think when we get Wirfs back and honestly some of our wide receivers more healthy, I actually think we'll see more of a snap count for Rachaad White. Another thing is I think it's kind of going to be just a seasonal approach to things. I think it was week 1. As we said, Rachaad got hurt in the preseason, missed some time in the preseason. I think they just wanted to get his feet wet while Bucky remained healthy. I think over the course of the year, we saw last year Bucky Irving get banged up down the stretch. I think they're anticipating that, hey, this could happen again. And, you know, I think Rachaad White will be used a lot more consistently as the year goes on. I wouldn't take too much out of that as he still got more plays than Tucker. I know Tucker got a couple carries, but we'll see. Anyone notice? Yeah. I remember the one specifically, Richard, where the Bucs were crossing the 50. Bucky stood in there, took a big hit on. And again, that's something these running backs have to learn in the NFL to stay in the NFL. I think that's something Ronald Jones failed to do, and that's why he's on the outside looking in now. Because if we remember Rojo, he could run the football. He never adapted to pass catching. He never adapted to pass blocking. And in modern day NFL, you kind of have to do both of those things well out of the running back position to find a home for the foreseeable future. But before we give our final word here, fun question for sports fans. Well, really for Tampa fans, I guess. But Kat's going to start with you. What was more of the surprising, or I don't know, but just Tampa jersey swaps of these young rookies? What more took you by surprise? Emeka Egbuka switching from 9 to 2? Or now it's announced that Rays rookie shortstop Carson Williams switched from 77 to 7, Cats.
Oh, that's tough because, you know, 2 was Ibuka's number in college and Carson's favorite number was 7. So I don't think I can answer that one. I think they're equal. Neither is a surprise to me. That's the best answer I can give you.
If anything, I think fans and myself, maybe this is a learning moment to maybe be patient and wait to buy a jersey. But some people like those novelty jerseys too. I'm going to keep my Egbuka 9 just because, hey, why the hell not? Not many people will have an Egbuka 9 out there. So kind of a cool opportunity there. But J-Lo, do you agree with Katz, or what's your thoughts on the Rays and Bucks young phenoms both swapping out jersey numbers during the season?
No, I kind of agree with Katz. It's really hard to pick. You know, they're both talented at their position and their type of sport. You know, like Katz said, Egbuka was number 2 in college, and Carson Williams has been ripping it over in the majors. You know, and I think number 7 looks good on him. So I can't decide either. It's hard to pick. They're both really good players. You know. And thank God they're both in Tampa. They're on the right team.
Yeah, we will be live on Saturday for the Saturday Showdown, 9:55 a.m. Eastern. Loaded college slate, loaded NFL slate. Our Bucs Texans official pregame show that morning as well. Fantasy football talk, gambling talk, our breadwinners, Red Eyes pick 'em, college football spread 'em. So much more to be had. So join us live Saturday. And then tomorrow night, we'll be releasing our campus kickoff college football show where J-Lo is with you, bringing the latest and greatest. And if you're a fan of collecting memorabilia and more, check out yesterday's Man Cave Monday, all things memorabilia show with the great Zach and I, Bucks by 30. Hope your anniversary week's going good, Zach. He couldn't make it tonight because him and the wifey are celebrating their union of love, which is awesome. Pep and Steppen says, I still have my Godwin 12. Yeah, great to have. Great to have. I really feel like Egbuka could have capitalized on the 9. That's true. And also, if you think a little dirtier, Baker being 6, Egbuka being 9, you could have done some things there to me with the fun little 6-9 hookup too. I get why you wanted to, but you know, you could have done a couple things to capitalize the 9 right there. But Joe Tryon and Kyle Trask jerseys can now be turned into Riley Dixon and Emeka Egbuka jerseys if you have those out there. But speaking of out there, this is the Buccateers on a Tune Me Up Tuesday. J-Lo, final words, final thoughts for the program as we head up, and we get bricked up for a Monday Night Football date in Houston, brother.
No, definitely. I'm excited for campus kickoff for tomorrow. I got a lot to say, a lot to break down. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. And hey, we're 1-0. We're 1-0. Top of the division right now. Let's enjoy it while we can. Come the Houston game, and see you Saturday, fellas.
Bacon eggs. That's another good one. Love it between Baker and Egbuka, so you could get a little fun
He's
stuff
on point
going.
right now, dude. I like
Yeah,
that.
Richard, you need to be our sayings guy. Maybe come up with our slogans, mottos, and some stuff, because you're doing good right now, my friend. You're on a heater. But Brother Katz, always great to see you, my friend. Final word for the program. Final thoughts on today's Tune Me Up Tuesday as we dare to go 2-0 and battle it out on Monday Night Football. Remember, a little earlier than normal, 7 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah. Week is always better coming off a victory, especially when it's against your division rival on the road. It swept you last year. I wanted that game bad, and we got it, and it has made for a much more pleasant week. So congrats on being 1-0. It's a great way to start. Can't wait to see us on Monday night in Houston.
I agree. And remember, we're the appetizer Monday night. Well, it's the better of the two games, but they're also having a game 9 o'clock as the second level head of the doubleheader that night. Is it Chargers Raiders, I believe, actually. That'll be a fun game over there. So, again, they're bringing back these traditional 6 and 9 o'clock Central doubleheaders. I love it. Hopefully the Bucs win, and then I'm going to be bricked up and enjoy that night game. Fire the damn cannons! Better Mayfield. I got faith in you, brother. Emeka, Egbuka, Mike Evans. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. We'll see you back on the Buccateers tomorrow night with the campus kickoff with your host, J-Lo, producer Tampa Tones. Catch the instant replay right now of Man Cave Monday, all things memorabilia with Bucs by 30 and Tampa Tones. And then Thursday, be on the lookout for Towing the Line with Joey Nips previewing NFL. And in the very near future, a look into the 813 Tampa sports history with Cats, Tampa Tones. We're all bricked up here on the Buccateers, and we'll be back all bricked up Saturday morning with a loaded slate of Bucs, college, NFL talk, and more. On behalf of J-Lo, Cats, myself, Tampa Tones, and the guys who couldn't make it tonight, Joey Nips, and the rest of the gang, it's the Buccateers. We'll be back on the other side here tomorrow night. Campus kickoff. Fire the damn cannons. Cats, J-Lo, have a great night, fellas.
Take care.
Bro, we'll put it like that.
Nice.
What's it like? I was actually there in attendance in Cleveland for Coe's first career NFL touchdown, which was awesome. And,
Awesome.
It was a great game. You could hear me on camera. I was just screaming, "Say it ain't so, Coe! Say it ain't so!" Sadly, from there, the game kind of went off the rails a little. That was the last high moment of that game, but it was a great game. Overtime loss, fun time.
Yeah.
But how was that moment for you? Seeing the first, whether it was on TV, in person, wherever you were, seeing his first NFL touchdown. How was that?
Well, dude, I mean, we were at home because it was a away game. We don't travel to a lot of the away games because we can get into that later. But, to watch that and to think I wished I was there live. So to have your video was so cool. And just that, hey, this is so cool. I mean, that was so cool for us. Catching it from Tom Brady, right? Like he's got the ball yet. I mean, first NFL touchdown means a lot, right? I mean, as a dad, that's just so cool to see. And it was fun to watch. And, it didn't have the outcome we wanted, but still the same. What a memory! What a memory to have, right? So,
and honestly,
cool.
those. One of the best guests ever, the Buccateers in the house tonight. You guys hear him on Tampa radio all the time. He's one of the best in the business. My favorite personal in the business. That's why I'm elated tonight. Growing up in the Chicago area, you're used to sports radio. That's what gets me through the day. So this man does help get me through the day, I will say, with the Pat and Aaron show at work. nothing like it. So it's incredible. It looks like we got Stunna bumbling in. I'm Tampa Tones. We are joined by lead goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Gonna put him on mute for a second until that gets a little clear. But we're joined by Pat
It looks like
Donovan.
Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like we got a little.
No, my camera's broke.
And he was trying to pull me in big time. And then I was like, hey, nothing's happened with Indianapolis yet. Like, I really want to give Indy a chance. And then also I talked to Cody Gruden, once he took over Rich McCann, and still like, well, look, I was like, y'all just give me the opportunity to explore free agency, see what's going on, and then kind of make us do it.
All right, everyone, you are tuned into the Buccateers of wide receiver Kalen Geiger, and we are about to have a great pod. This is the Buccateers. You're tapped in, and here we go.